Welcome to the Old Doctor Who Show. We have a very, very special episode of the Old Doctor Who Show. When you would watch after school special or something, they'd have a very special episode.
Hello, I'm Conrad Bain.
And something.
Are we going to learn a lesson today,
We're going
Eric?
to learn a lesson. Something
Okay.
terrible is going to happen. We are here. We have an interview with one of our favorite listeners, one of our favorite audio actors now. We're talking to Conrad Westmaas. You know Conrad as an actor for his role in Causeway, and I know I'm getting the pronunciation on that
It's
wrong
close,
or incorrect,
right?
but I think I've been working a little. Causeway. You'll see him alongside India Fisher and Paul McGann in the Big Finish Doctor Who Monthly Adventures. Now, he's recently returned to the epic 4-part series, Sontarans vs. the Routons, which I hope you've all purchased. We did a review on that. I would encourage you all to listen to that. We know Conrad is Hair of the Hound, one of the longest running, if not the first to contact us, possibly the first.
One of the first,
in TODWS history. He's joining us live now via satellite from the BFI's presentation of Horror of Fang Rock with Louise Jameson. Conrad, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been comical trying to find Wi-Fi, trying to find a quiet spot. So I've just come outside. So I'm currently sitting on the concrete. I can see the Thames in front of me. But yeah, I'm fresh from the screening of a Horror of Fang Rock at BFI. So
How did it go?
I'm vibrating. Yeah, it was amazing. These BFI screenings now, you will have seen the BFI before, both of you, because when Pertwee and Joe Grant are running away from Ogrons, it's around all this brutalist 60s architecture here. So this is where also a Doctor Who location. But yeah, today, whenever they release a collection set, a Blu-ray set, they do a screening here at the BFI, which is kind of amazing because it's like the biggest film and TV archive place smack bang in the middle of London. And my partner today, when he left, saying, and they're showing this old stuff from the 70s that was shown once. With is that the one with the green balloon in it, slimy balloon? I'm like, yeah. This country. But it was very, very exciting, and they play it with new effects, the new versions. They show bits of documentaries, and they have Louise Jameson and some of the cast. So I've just seen Louise Jameson. I'll send you some photos as well.
Oh yes, please do.
Very exciting.
Lovely.
So they do like a Q&A. They have like a Q&A presentation. That's
full
awesome.
Q&A. Yeah, these things last about 4 hours. It's a real...
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it's a real event. They do it from 12 till 4, so you just can't eat. So we're all hysterical. But it's, it's an amazing event. So I feel like, quite appropriately, I come live from the heat of Rutan battle, which is,
Absolutely.
The first appearance, right, of the route. That I love. We talked about it on the show. I've been rewatching Tom Baker's run. That episode is that story anyway, is so great. I love the feel of it.
How very interesting.
And
the atmospheric. It's just, oh boy.
All the acting is great. It's one of my favorites.
And when an interesting thing happens, these Doctor Who shows you've seen a million times, when you slap it up on a big screen with a real audience and turn the lights off, you really see where the laughs are, where the drama is, where the suspense is. It does something.
Oh wow!
Do they edit?
No,
do they edit it together as like one presentation with the credits removed, or
in front of 500 Doctor Who fans, you do not take a pair of scissors to any second of those credits.
So you watch right. So you watch each intro, each outro, and then the next one just
really
starts.
Is that. Yeah,
that's awesome.
It's like watching TV. I have to say, I listen, and thank you. I am I've done audio, I've done all that kind of stuff. But the real thing is, I am a long-time listener of the old Doctor Who show, and this is very, very surreal. Working with Paul McGann, the TARDIS, nuts to that. And also,
this is the real action.
You've now got the video, so of course I watch it on my TV, and anyone who's appeared on your TV is just famous. So I'm just starstruck.
No, it's so funny. No, you saw a real star.
Yeah, but I
really.
listened
in Louise.
As prep, I thought, I'll listen to the old Doctor Who show review of the Horror of Fang Rock to prepare for this. And it was very interesting because the first 20 minutes is Eric ranting about why kids throw sneakers over the power line.
Oh yeah,
big sneaker. It's all conspiracy theory you need, but I thoroughly recommend that.
Oh, that's amazing. Well,
wow.
It's funny you say that because on this side of the fence, for Dan and I, it's super strange and wild that you're in the Doctor Who universe. And we had talked to you several times.
So many times.
You would send us emails and they would be like, there's a picture of like you're at the set of one of the storylines, or you got us.
Oh, here's a signed autograph of a fine photo
with Ace that's writing us a thing, and then we're thinking like, this guy's a really big fan, like having no idea that you're involved in the world.
And then like a very like the Sixth Sense moment where all the pieces come together, and he's been in it all along. Right. What? It's a very Shyamalan sort of.
Dan dropped his coffee mug and it just finding all the pieces on the wall. Yeah,
I know who Kaiser Soze is. It's amazing.
It was very cool.
It is a double. I have got. I'm Spider-Man pointing at myself. It is that double.
Yes,
because I am a huge Doctor Who fan, probably.
Of course, yeah.
Almost. And then also I was very lucky and happened to get involved in it. So yeah, it's a very strange double life. But like I go to conventions, but I sometimes go to conventions to get autographs. And then later on this year, it's very strange going to conventions. On the other side, it's like you're at Disney World and you're one of the rides. It's like
right.
Well, I wanted to ask you that. So like, you've been into Doctor Who since you were a kid. When did you first sort of discover it?
Yeah, I mean, I discovered it very early on. My sister was 5 years older than me, and so she was really watching it. But it's the first thing I can remember of anything is the sea devils coming out of the sea. And I looked at when it was, and it was a repeat and I was just about 3, and it's the first thing I can remember of anything. And I remember little bits of Pertwee, but basically everything from Tom Baker onwards. My first season was like Giant Robot, Genesis of the Daleks, and I was just like, bam. So it was like Tom Baker's my Doctor, Sarah Jane's my companion.
Yeah.
So, and I just never missed an episode since. So
it was a thing, like you said, where are you actually from originally?
So I grew up in the West Country, which is like near Glastonbury and all that kind of stuff. I mean, so in the country, but in the 70s, so I'm 53, and in the 70s, we had 3 channels, and one of those was sort of unwatchable. So all the kids just watched Doctor Who. I mean, every kid watched Doctor Who. It was just that kind of monoculture in a good way. So it was just like, if you had kids, they would watch Doctor Who unless they were too scared, because a lot of kids at school, their parents wouldn't let them watch it because of nightmares and bedwetting and stuff.
So was Doctor Who your first sort of entryway into science fiction type stuff? Because I know you're also a huge Star Wars fan. Like, did Star Wars come first for you, or was it Doctor Who?
No, it was always Doctor Who, and I consider myself very lucky that it was, when I was 3 or 4, it was Tom Baker and Sarah Jane.
Yeah.
And then when I was about 7, Star Wars came out. So again, perfect age. I think there was a little time where Star Wars did, when I got into when Return of the Jedi was coming out, Star Wars did, and Tom Baker left, Star Wars started to steal my heart a little bit. But and I love Star Wars dearly, just the original ones. But no, it's always been Doctor Who. That's
an interesting thing, like thinking about like American culture versus English culture. Here, at least in my experience, I'm sure Dan would match it. Science fiction things like that, like Doctor Who, was not well liked or respected. Like that was sort of outsider. People.
No, what would we have had around the same time? We had a very similar sort of monoculture in that we had the 3 major broadcast networks.
Right.
Buck Rogers, maybe
Galactica. But those things for me were like things that I would be interested in, but nobody at school.
You'd have to seek them out too. Absolutely.
It was like that was the place you found comfort from the lunacy of the why. Normally you'd be hunted for sport when you would grow up like that. Is that the same experience that you had? It sounds like it was more of like a nicer sort of place to grow up.
Oddly, Doctor Who is here, kind of a cozier thing. So my partner's from the States, and he always says he remembers Doctor Who, PBS, watching the end of Sesame Street, and he's like, great. And then the Tom Baker title sequence would come on, and he'd run screaming from the room going, turn it, turn it, turn it.
Yeah.
It's the opposite here. It was basically, Doctor Who was designed to fill in a gap between the football, which is on Saturday afternoons that all the dads would watch, and then the sort of the evening entertainment. And it's that sweet spot where traditionally your mum was making the tea or the dinner or whatever.
Right.
That's when, so it's got a very homely, very fond memories. Everyone's we remember watching it with your mum, with your dad, and they got you dinner, and it was very tea time, cozy, cuddle up. So it was scary, but the scary was kind of like cuddle up to, hide behind the sofa, cuddle up to your parents. So people feel very fondly of it here. So it's a very
it's amazing.
Yeah,
so your parents
when you watch it, it's terrifying,
Yeah.
Your parents were also your dad, mom, science fiction fans as well.
No, it was just they were mum and dad, and it was and kid. You know, you make the tea. The kids are watching Doctor Who. It's just it's like the Muppet Show. It's like one of those. It's just like a cozy time of evening where you watch it. But they were, oh my god, my dad was horrified. He's like science, fact. Honestly, and I was just like, no, I want Star Wars, I want space, I want all that kind of stuff. So no, but they've been very tolerant of it over the years because they just realised, oh, we've lost him.
So you have like this science fiction, Star Wars, Doctor Who background. That's sort of, it sounds like it's been in your blood since you were 3 or 4. When did you like sort of decide that you wanted to be an actor? Like, how did the acting thing, and not even just even the Doctor Who stuff, is that something you were pursuing separately and then the two worlds met, or how did that happen?
Yeah. So I think it was at school. I had one of those teachers that really is amazing. So it's a fantastic teacher. And when I was at school, it really got me through school. I was terrible at like anything factual or maths, science, all that kind of stuff. But drama and art and all that kind of stuff. So I threw myself into that, and I wanted to become an actor. And I kind of threw it away for a while. But then later on, it just came back. I was like, no, I really want to do it. So quite late, I was in my late 20s. I just went to drama school. You know, trained as an actor, and then worked as an actor from like, you know, doing like little plays above a pub to like, you know, and then just sort of did mainly theatre and stuff. And then I got a job on Doctor Who magazine because when you're an actor, you always need a side job. You always need a day job.
Yeah.
And basically, I'd worked for 20th Century Fox doing licensing and stuff, so I had a little experience of that. So basically, I had like 5 or 6 months on Doctor Who magazine just helping out. And when I left, I was like, oh, I'm getting more acting work, getting more auditions. And I think some dark deal was done in a pub. And they were like, go on, just chuck him a day. Just shut him up. Give him a day on a Doctor Who audio. So I was like, all my dreams come true. It was a Peter Davison audio called Omega. So I was meeting one of the great villains. And I was like,
yeah.
But very luckily, and I'd never done audio before. So I was just really making it up because it's quite a strange. I was very confident in theatre. I know where I am. I know how it looks and how to sound, how to throw your voice, all this kind of stuff. But like, audio was very new. But I was very lucky because in that play, the character gets like terrorized, possessed by Omega. I get my hand lasered off at some point.
Wow!
And they were like, "Oh, can you just double for young Rassilon?" So it was it was just, you know, so much of this is just fluke. And it just the play I did just had so many different things that a normal Doctor Who companion's got to do, and at the right time they were just looking for a new companion for McGann, so it all just lined up. So that's how.
So like you've run sort of the gamut in acting, like theater. You mentioned you did theater, which I saw there was a note of where you played a sloth, a devil, and a priest in something called Dr. Faustus.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I'm curious to know, like, as an actor, like, because going from the theater versus audio acting, like you mentioned it kind of before, but like how projecting your voice and stuff, like the skills that you got from the theater and how that applies to audio acting. But I'm fascinated as an actor, like how you approach a role in the audio space where you don't have facial expressions. You don't have like pauses. I mean, I guess you have dramatic pauses, but there's very few like nonverbal things that you can do. You can't interact with the scenery. So like, how do you get in that headspace? Because it is a totally different beast, and you do it really well. Like, can you talk a bit about like figuring out how to approach a role where it's just your voice?
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing. I don't pretend to have got the hang of it. Like I was always I trained in theatre, so I was always much more comfortable. Where you could just look at a space, and you know, I toured and stuff, and we played outside, did Shakespeare festivals and stuff, and I can basically look at a space and go, I can see roughly how much voice this needs. Yeah. I know how to get that wall, but in the studio it's completely different. It is really, really strange. It took me a while. I have to say, I can hear myself learning over time how I did it. It is like, you're right, it's completely condensed. There is nothing but the words. There's nothing in the room. It's completely empty, and you just have to kind of imagine that. I think it's the same thing as theatre, because in theatre, you can see 3 walls of your set, but the rest of it is just like, well, it's usually pitch black. You know, you normally can't see anything, but you can sometimes see the audience. So you are having to use your imagination just to pretend you're somewhere else. And so you still use that, but it's so difficult to describe. Basically, there's a lot of kind of concentration and focus about it, but there is a lot of, and I remember when India Fisher, who's Now she really is an amazing who plays Charlie.
Yep.
What a voice! The best description I've ever heard of India Fisher is like she always sounds like she's got a glass of champagne in her hand, and that's a good description of her. Paul as well. I mean, he is an incredible voice actor. He's won awards for his voice. It's incredible, and having to join that was a lot of kind of pressure. But there is a lot of you do have to really just focus on, like, they can't see my face, they can't see what I'm doing, but there is a lot of physical stuff in there. I mentioned India because the first time she did it, she didn't know when to. She just held her breath every time she said a line. She would just hold her breath because she didn't think she could do that. And there's other stuff like paper, when the script's on paper, when to turn your page. And there's little tricks, like Paul taught me this trick. If you've got like a 5-page scene, you're like, well, I've got to turn my pages in the middle of all of this. It's basically page 1 in your left, 2, 3, 4 on the stand, page 5 in your right, then you never have to turn the page. It's these little tricks and techniques. But also, I would say, it's surprisingly physical, especially with Doctor Who, because the first time I went in there, they were like, Paul was there to interject, come on, Charlie, run! And the two of them started running on the spot, and I was like,
so that's interesting. Yeah. You are in the same space with the actors at the same time recording.
Yeah, although sometimes they do nowadays, because I took a long break from it. I didn't do one for 17 years. I came back, and a lot of the directors and actors do it, just beam in remotely. So we had a mixture. But also, you do have the other people to play off, and you can.
Well, that's like, I feel like that, like your theater, like that's part of the whole experience. Like being able.
That's the whole experience is reacting to each other.
And
so
the physical stuff's great, and the nice thing is, like, you all go in. Everyone's been quite cool. Like, what are you doing at the moment? What kind of, And Paul is a very cool guy. 3, 2, 1. The TARDIS is crashing, and we are, and everyone is just like, you just revert to being 6 years old, and you're throwing yourselves around, and it's amazing. Sometimes you really like, you're really stuck to your script, and then you look up and you see another actor's reacting what you're doing, and they're like, and they're sort of like, so it's really physical as well. So it's complex.
Is there any kind of ad-libbing going on at all, like when you're in the moment in the scene, or is it very much this is the script that we're knocking down?
Yeah, generally there's not much room for ad-libbing. It's very kind of, you basically rehearse record, so you'll just read the scene through so everyone, all the actors have read it, and then you record it, and then generally if there's any pickups or anything, the director is not happy with something, you go back. I'm generally, and they sort of say, is everyone happy? And generally I'm like, unless I've done something that I really think was terrible, and unless there's any complaints, we move on. But it's the coming back to it now, I really realise the focus and the concentration it takes to. It's so it's you've really got to click. Really, there's no slack, and also you are often having to physicalise stuff like, oh yeah, by the way, everyone, don't forget you're climbing up rocks.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, and so it's very, very. The concentration and focus is like amazing. So there's not an awful lot. Occasionally, you'll get, usually within a space of a day, someone will tweak a line or two. 3 or 4 lines will get tweaked. And if you know your character, if there's something you go, oh, I just don't think this guy would know this. How about this? So you can make little suggestions, but generally it's bam, bam, bam. You just concentrate and shoot through.
Well, is that the same way then? You were saying the director checking to make sure everyone's comfortable with their performances and how it went before moving on. Are there times when you have to come back and do ADR, additional recording, after the fact in isolation? Or is that usually really just caught at the time in the room together?
Yeah, usually cut in the room at the time.
That's wonderful.
Often the director will stop and go, hang on, I'm just checking something, and they'll do that horrible thing and play you back in your camera. Because then listening to yourself, who doesn't love that?
I love it.
Yeah, but yeah, generally it's all on the fly. I mean, sometimes I do apologise for anyone listening to this. It's quite windy, so I hope you can still hear me.
All right.
Sometimes there are bits where they're like, oh yeah, we're bringing in, there's an actor who's got to record on a different day, or there's a scene or a voice effect or something. Voice effects are interesting. Generally, again, it's this current audio we've just put out, they do little extras in the end, little interviews.
Yeah.
And there's a moment where you can hear me and Paul in India crashing the TARDIS, and we just sound like lunatics because there's no sound, there's no anything. Right. And the like, you're like, what? We just sound ridiculous. But I think once you've heard your first one and you've heard all the effects, you know what you're pitching against, so you can really just sort of throw yourself around a bit more.
Well, to that point, that's really interesting. To the point, though, not just the additional sound effects that will come into it later, which I want to come back to in just a second, but in the recording, in the story that we reviewed, there were effects placed on top of a character's voice.
Oh yeah.
So that I'm assuming is all done after the fact, and you get to hear that. How much of that can actually be done?
Yeah.
Live with it, or yeah.
Normally, if someone's got a voice effect on them, they have to sit in a booth so that their voice is isolated, so that they can isolate it. The only exception, and nobody told me this, we did a story called Terra Firma, where it was the first time I met a classic monster, and it was Daleks and Davros, and it was like I had Davros to the right of me, Daleks to the left, and I had my cans on. And we're like, okay, I'm going to go for take everybody, and nobody told me that for the Daleks and Davros, they do it's called the ring modulator. They do it in, and honestly, I said I watched like Genesis of the Daleks when I was 3 or 4. I had this like. I just jumped out of my skin.
Like, how do you maintain the cool factor that you're not like fanboying out or just like stepping out,
just openly weeping the entire time?
You're living the dream of the young Conrad.
It is really, really. You like, to be honest, in any audio, any performance thing, you've always got to just hold your nerve. You have to take a deep breath and go and prepare like a demon. Like, it's all you just prepare like that, and then just hope to get. You got to trust. Like, I've done everything I can do. I'm just going to lay it out there and hope it flies. But yeah, the Doctor Who thing is an added layer because I've worked with pretty, there was a story. There was a 40th anniversary story. Jesus, that is 20 years ago. Where they brought back all the old Doctors, all the old companions, and I offered to read in some of the parts. So I got to work with all these old Doctors and companions, and you just have to kind of bury it down a little bit, but it's never far from the surface. I'm never far from hysteria.
When you first got the opportunity, like, they had already had a relationship, right? Like, India and Paul had already done stories together, and you're coming in new. Do you feel like all of that, like, Doctor Who love was almost like a hindrance in a way, because there's like you're doing what you love, and like, did you find that was getting into your head intellectually, like second guessing takes and all of that stuff?
Absolutely. Yeah. My first audio I did it with Peter Davison. I was kind of really excited, but I thought, this is my one day. It's really exciting. It is what it is. Paul in India was a whole different thing, and I listened to all of their stories. They were also, at the time, Doctor Who wasn't on TV, so they were the newest.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
Prestige. Everyone loved Paul. Everyone loved India with good reason. They were amazing. But they'd written this relationship where there was a bit of a Doctor companion romance happening between the two of them, and they needed to kind of nix it. And how do you nix it? You get in a big space gooseberry. And it's a really good idea, but it's quite hard to be that person. And there was a weird fan reaction at the time. It was a very mixed bag. But there was the thing of trying to fit in as a character and just make this weird space character work from another universe. But I was really worried about Paul, India, and me, because it's no longer a 2, it's a 3. Yeah. And that, I had to earn my place, and it was tough. But yeah, that was a real psych. And I have to fully admit, when I recorded that first one, I didn't sleep for more. We recorded it in a week, and I didn't sleep for more than 3 hours a night that week.
Oh God!
I've calmed down. Fine. But at the time, it was totally just the pressure of it was for me as a Doctor Who fan was huge. Whereas if I was an actor going into, like, I don't know, period drama or something, I probably would have been a bit more chill about it. But I was not chill at all. I was freaky.
Can you talk a little bit about the character for people that may not know them? Because it's a brand new character, right? It didn't exist in the show. So you're basically starting from zero and establishing who this person is. Like, how do you as an actor, like, obviously it's in the script, but like, how do you find the thing that makes them tick?
To add on to that, like, how much of that is done on your own and how much is actually done in collaboration with the director, writer, other people as well as you come up with the character?
It was, this character was quite an unusual character. Basically, if you're playing a type, or someone from like India, she's playing an Edwardian woman. So like, you've got some, you can kind of draw on it. But if it's a character that's completely made up from the ground up from some weird space universe, and you know what Doctor Who's like, I'm trying to figure out this. I'm a Doctor Who fan. I'm like, I can barely figure out this sci-fi stuff. But no, there was no collaboration. I got in the car and the director just said, I want you to use your own voice. And I was like, Okay, that's great. We're not voice effecting it, that's fine. So it all came from the script. And my first script was a bit of a challenge. But you just had to take little clues from where you could. So, for instance, they've got that thing where he changes colour. His skin changes colour, which on audio is a very interesting choice.
You just have to keep reminding people.
Keep reminding
I'm
yourself.
changing color right now. Yeah.
It played well.
It comes up and it doesn't feel forced. But yeah, you're right.
Not at all. Not at all.
But I was just like, well, he changes colour, so that probably tells you he's more prey than predator. So like, okay, he's going to be a little bit back foot. He's a bit unsure. He's not super confident. So you just make it up.
Yeah.
But you were really trying to go from little clues, and it was so difficult. There was so much experimental stuff going on. They were also like, not only is there a new companion, but they sent the Doctor and Charlie into another universe with no TARDIS, no old monsters, no time, no anything, and then a space gooseberry. And we were like, what? So it was very challenging.
Is that end space?
No.
Okay.
No.
Because I saw there was like end space, and I'm like, is it related to E space? And like, there's a lot of spaces.
There are a lot of alternate universes in Doctor
So
Who.
where is your character from? What's their...
He's from this planet called... Oh God, it's so complicated because basically we met on this giant planet that was a composite and been made up of those people who grabbed people from different time zones. So the character is from a place called Utermes. He's a Utermazan, and all of these bits of his planet and other planets were like mashed together in this crucible world. I don't really want to get into it, it's mad. But basically, he's a space lizard from an alternative universe.
Is he coming from a place of trauma, which is often the case, like lost parents or lost family?
In his first story, he had to kill his wife. He
Oh
got turned into a giant bug creature. It was like there was a lot.
Wow.
There was a lot to get through, and it was kind of nice because eventually we got back to the ordinary universe, greeted by Daleks and Davros. We got the TARDIS, and by that time the three of us were just like rocking along. It's just not my taste. I don't like a lot of backstory, a lot of trauma. I'm in it for the fun, and I think Paul and India and I always like the fun ones. If there's action, running around, a bit of fun, a bit of wordplay and knocking about, a bit of TARDIS crashing, we generally like the fun ones. So I generally prefer the stories like this one, where it's self-contained, it's an adventure, we land, we fight monsters, don't go wandering off.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Yes, of course.
Death druids. I'm just going to go and join them. All that classic Doctor Who stuff. Love it.
Well, so for you, you're saying that you enjoy performing in some of those. Is that the same for you as a fan? I'm sure you've heard Eric and I talk about the different types of stories that we like as fans and listeners. Does that line up with your experience of the type of stories you like listening to or watching?
No, not necessarily, actually, because we've just watched Horror of Fang Rock, which is really terrifying and scary and atmospheric, and everybody dies. Gosh, there is a separation. I think when I listened to your review, you're absolutely right. You clocked it really quickly, as in, this sounds like a classic Doctor Who, and I think that's right. And I think generally the first 8 Doctors, you want all of those kind of nice classic beats. And it's got to be clear. I want a TARDIS in the beginning. I want a TARDIS at the end. I want the companion wandering off. I do kind of like it classic. I personally don't like a lot of trauma and angst and backstory and stuff. I want fun, action, adventure. The more straightforward, the better.
I gotta just point out while you're talking, like there's a bridge or something behind you, and people keep walking past, and I keep thinking they're Daleks, like going past from the episode.
Very like that.
I'm like, it's an Dalek invasion of Earth is happening now.
Yeah.
With the last story, I know it ends in a mystery. Do you have any other plans on more Big Finish stuff or any other acting jobs coming up? Is that also your primary life? Is acting and doing voice acting, or you do what other things does Conrad do?
What other things does Conrad do? So no, I mean, I used to. I acted, I trained for 2 years and I acted solidly for 10 years, and it was what I did. Like I said, you often had to have a little side job or a side hustle going, but it was who I was, what I did. It was everything. But I stopped that 14 years ago, and I haven't done an audio for 17 years until this one we did last year, and it was the first bit of acting I'd done in 17 years. So that was kind of like a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it was like 2007 or so was your last thing before.
Yeah, my God, yeah. And then, it was. I just got this call. To be honest, I did hear, though, and I know the writer, Lizzie Hopley, because we worked in a play together. She played my wife in a play, very early on, so I know Lucy really well. So yeah, I haven't acted for 17 years until this, so it's really nice. And I didn't know if I could still do it. I know that sounds silly because like, oh, it's just talking on a microphone, but it's a very particular thing. And I did, God, talking about having to really pull my nerve up, as in I haven't done this for 17 years. Let's go back in there. But it was great. And then a couple of other things happened, and I got a call from another audio company, someone I know, to be in another old franchise called Robin of Sherwood, which was very big here in the 80s, which again was dream come true stuff. So I've done a little audio of that's coming up. There might be a couple of other things coming up. People have asked me, like, oh, are you going to do more with Kerry's and this team? There are no plans or scripts or anything right now. I think that, the door is open. We'll see how this one goes. But I think also they're Big Finish are banking a lot of audios with a lot of the older doctors as they get older. We're just like banking lots.
It seems like it's doing pretty well. I mean, people love it.
So I mean, if they're in the future, that'd be great. But I genuinely don't know any right now. But I would.
Do you miss television type acting, or are you interested in television, or even the theater? Like, is there a part of you that still kind of yearns for getting back to that kind of thing?
Yeah, I hardly ever did any camera work. I scrap a TV or film, but never very much. It was never really my thing. I just didn't get it. I think I was just theatre, and like it's a certain way of doing it. So in rehearsals, you start not knowing anything. You don't know your lines. You don't know your character, and you just build it over weeks, and then you've got it. And then on the night, you start at the beginning of the story, and you build it and build it and build it, and it just makes complete sense. TV is nuts. It's like, sit in a corner for 3 hours. Right. We'll call you when we need you, and it's like go, and like then it's all out of order. I never really got it. Audio I kind of liked. Do I miss it? Yeah, I do. I miss. I mean, I wouldn't like to live as an actor now because it's a very hard, crazy. You just never know where you're going. You can't really go on holiday. It's very unpredictable. People smash things. It's tricky. I miss the playfulness of it. But I'm very lucky that I'm still in contact with a lot of my actor friends, and the Doctor Who thing, again, comes to save the day because this is a thread that's never goes away. I mean, I've just been in this thing now, and I've got people coming up to me going, "Oh, we've never met. We've bumped into each other for years, but we've never properly met." And so this Doctor Who thread will be the thing that keeps the acting thing going. So, how brilliant!
That's amazing.
So, yeah.
And where you are, we talked about you're at the BFI. Presentation of this thing. Are you there as a just a guest seeing it, or is there any promotional stuff going on for the new audiobook?
No, I'm just here as a punter. I'm just here to watch my old Doctor Who on a big telly with Leela sitting a few seats down from me. It is
incredible.
Amazing. But it's nice. I know a lot of people here. There's a lot of the podcast gang are here. There's these things are amazing. There's a quiz going on. They often have a drag queen who dress up as the companions doing it. It's a whole.
That's awesome.
I think Louise Jameson and some of the cast are signing right now. They've got a model Rutan that someone built for the special effects. It's like a mini go-long convention. But no, I come to this as a punter. I'm very lucky. I can sometimes sneak on the guest list if I'm very nice to somebody, but no, generally I'm just here as a punter.
Do you do the con circuit at all? Like, I know with comics and stuff, like you can literally just go from show to show and sign autographs or meet fans. Is that something you're interested in?
Yeah, I used to when I was doing, every time an audio come out, we'd do a signing, and I did various conventions, which was amazing. I mean, it was so wild, and again, it's that thing of being a Who fan and also being a guest.
I know, you're on both
sides. You get into a lift, and you're in a lift with Liz Sladen, and I'm like, how do I react? What do I do?
Yeah, that's amazing.
So it's very so the conventions are really fun, and I haven't done one for 17 years, but Paul and India and I are doing one in May.
Oh, really?
It's sold out. But the three of us still need together. I think Paul's going to be in costume.
Oh, really?
I'm going to be back. I'll get some photos printed up that I can sign and get back into that whole action.
Well, I think that's
wonderful.
That's the one question that people are constantly asking is like, how do I get in to the Doctor Who universe? I know Dan wants to get in.
Literally, no. Everyone's asking me, how do we get Eric in specifically?
You're living the dream. It's amazing. I love it. All right, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. That you've been so
this is fantastic.
Awesome Not only did you do it while you're out, but you're literally outside. There's people throwing bottles at you, I heard at one point.
Well, it's England.
My battery's went 10% left, so I think I'm
Okay.
Very good.
We should end it here. I really appreciate you doing this. It's been really nice.
Absolutely.
Before we do this, with my last 10%, if I've got it, I'm just going to say,
Yeah.
so what? Congratulations on the new format of the Old Doctor Who show, which I'm absolutely getting to see it. I mean, this is the good stuff. Loving your editing, Eric. All the stuff.
Thank you.
Isn't he great? He's so good.
It. And also, you've got your Goblin song, which went bloody viral. That's marvelous. What are your kind of plans? And also, thank you so much for reviewing an audio, having a guest on. This is very different stuff. Have you got any ideas of what sort of shape you want it to go in, or are you just going to go with the flow?
I think we're pretty much winging it. I like the video just to be able to add, if we make a weird reference that people will be like, what is he talking about?
I'm making my lunch!
You can put that joke in. I feel like the jokes land a little bit better. But I personally, I love the Big Finish stuff. And I really enjoy it. I love that we had the opportunity to listen to your latest story. I would definitely do more of those. The reaction videos that we do perform really well.
We're trying to figure that stuff out. Like the biggest thing for us,
weird to me, to be watching something, but I guess there's like a Mystery Science Theater bit.
They're big for some reason. We just I think the biggest plan for us is we want to keep having a chance to talk to each other about something that we really like. So coming back, we would never see each other. Literally, we'd never see each other. So while we're waiting for the next series to really start in earnest, finding these other things when news drops, when there's a new clip, when there's a new Big Finish audio, it gives us this reason to kind of get together and for us to talk and for all the people that listen to be able to join us too. So that's really the only thing that's guiding us.
In true TODWS fashion, we were on a nice, it was going to end, and then I throw something in and wreck the whole system. There was a listener question, and I believe you got the tweet sent to you, Conrad, that was, who would win in a fight, your character, Turlo, or Harry? Now, I feel like Harry is not known for being much of a fighter. I feel like this is throwing Harry in there?
Yeah. Harry was a weird choice.
It feels like an insult. Like they added, or Harry. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I like Harry. But, I mean, Turlo's got the power pop angle.
Yeah, in a fight, I'm not quite sure. I mean, Keres and Turlo are both quite sneaky. I think Harry's got it, though. He's got a big square jaw. He's got that kind of public schoolboy thing. I think he's kicking our asses. But also, I think both of them are quite sexy, so I think it could turn into a bit of a love.
Honestly, I feel like wouldn't you just blend into the wall? They wouldn't even know, and you'd watch him kill each other, and then at the end, you'd the old frying pan over his head. So I'm putting money on you. Although
same here.
Turlo is like, you can't trust that guy.
Well, he's going to feign a death, but he's going to be the one that you think he's gone, but he comes from behind and shivs you between the... Yeah, that's Turlo.
He'll get you.
Coming soon from Big Finish.
Fantastic. All right, well, thank you again, Conrad. This was such a pleasure. Hera the Hound, friend of the show for years and years now. This is just wonderful for us. Really enjoy it.
Thank you so much.
I've just got one thing to say.
Oh, yeah.
Shake the crime stick.
Yes.
Shake the crime stick!
You haven't purchased it. Battle of Giants Causeway. It's what, $12, $14 US? I don't know what it is overseas, but it's worth it.
Get into the theater of the mind.
It's got a really nice, you mentioned it. I like that it had like that behind the scenes. I guess that's a standard thing that they do for Big Finish, but it's nice. Great. You get to talk to the writer and you get to talk to the cast. Very cool. Worth your time and your money.
Cool.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks, everybody. Until next time.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.